this is the real crap show. You won't be able to see much here, but basically what happened was I rebuilt all the front suspension. Even put new boots on the rack because they were torn. Poly sway bar bushings, all this stuff is new. Now, when I had the axle sitting down here, I'm trying to obscure the damage there because it's really catastrophic and it's kind of depressing to look at. But when I had the axle hanging down here, because I had all these arms out and everything, one of the balls came out of the inner CV joint, and when that happened, it locked up. So I had to take it out and put it on the bench and put it back together again, put it in the vise and put it back together. Now, I thought I tightened those bolts really tight, and I did, but there was too much grease on them, and I guess they worked loose. Now, this happened when I was accelerating, and I was going about 25 miles per hour, 30 miles per hour. It was a pretty hard acceleration, so I'm not surprised it happened, but it sucks what happened here. Basically, you know, when I'm going to cut and put the light on. Yeah, so that's broken there. Some aluminum is missing there. There you can see the geometry of the damage. There's a bit there missing, chunk. Okay, not so bad, I thought. And then I looked down there and I was like, wait a second. Is that gear oil? Did it take out a seal there? No way it took out that seal. That's inside there behind the drive flange. Then I went like this. Oh God, what's that? Oh God, oh God. So I saw this hole here, and you know, I'm not gonna get a good picture. There you go, that's a good picture. So I thought, oh shit, the transmission's fucked, I'm taking it out. And then I was like, wait a second, I can put some RTV in there. This has happened to other TDI owners before. So I went on vacation, came back. I was like, here we go, we're gonna do this. So I pulled the axle out, everything, getting ready to go. And I looked in there and I was like, that looks like a selector fork. And I looked at some photos online and I realized, yeah, all the selection forks are here. And then I tried to go into second gear and I realized second gear doesn't work. It doesn't go into second gear. As in, you know, obviously the gear set is still intact, but the actual shifter fork won't move. So yeah, the transmission's coming out. So I'm gonna see if I can maybe split the case apart and then, you know, clean that up and sandblast it and then bring it to a nice aluminum TIG welder and they can do a good job on it and I can grind it down and make it pretty like new. That, it's not really structural, so I don't really care. I mean, it is structural, but I still don't care. I think it'll be fine. It'll give me a good chance to look at all the, you know, the reverse idler gear and all that other fun stuff. So anyway, that's what I'm working on now. If you look down here, you can see I took some of the shifter linkage apart. That stuff was all replated yellow zinc, as were the injector lines, and I had the injection pump off also. So there's a lot of new stuff on here. I put a lot of hours into this van, and I only got to drive it for about 3 or 4 days until it died like this. So a little sad, but you know, this stuff does happen. So starter's out, axle bolts are out, all the shifter linkage is disconnected, all this stuff is out. So basically the only thing holding the transmission is the upper mount, and of course the bell housing bolts. So what I've done here is I've taken one of the legs from my engine hoist and I've run it across here and put these little microfiber cloths there to protect what's left of my radiator support. And then I've done this here. Now this is loose right now, but I'm hoping that when I release the jack that's on the oil pan, this will tighten up, and see it's right on the head there. So theoretically, what's this? Oh, that's from my jack. Theoretically, this mount is here, and it is bolted to the block on the rear end. And this is attached, is picking right there at the front of the head. So theoretically, it should be level because it has one point on the back of the block and one point at the top front of the head. So hopefully this will balance out a little bit. Also considering this is actually, you know, this can't move, like that's bolted to the chassis, so it shouldn't do any weird things like that. It could slightly, you know, tip backwards a little bit, but I don't think that mount is gonna allow that to happen. There are 3, like, you know, whatever high grade bolts on there. Nothing's gonna twist or anything, I hope. But what I do have to do is take this hydraulic mount out, and I think I'm gonna do that by just keeping this jacked up, unbolting the lower bolts, unbolting these top bolts, and I'll just be able to, you know, slide it out, slide those studs out from that mounting plate, and then take that out. And at that point, that's going to give me a lot more room to just loosen all these. I think it's only 4 bell housing bolts, so which I don't think is enough. So I'm kind of glad I'm doing this so I can, you know, revise that system a little bit of transmission mounting. So I'm going to go do that now and see if I can get this thing out of here. So I had all the bell housing bolts out, and I was wondering why the transmission wouldn't come out. Then I realized this support bracket for the extension shaft on one of the output flanges that goes to the passenger side was still bolted on, and this was blocking it from, you know, coming out this way off of the side of the engine. That bolts to the back of the engine, by the way, obviously. And the bolts are pretty loose. I mean, they weren't very super tight, which I was surprised, and one of the bolts was missing. So, lots of bolts missing, and I only had 3 bell housing bolts. I thought I put 4 in. There are 3. I did have a problem with a couple of them loosening up back in, let's see, that was the summer of 2018, because I finished this in 2018, so it was a few months after I finished the van, so I have this stupid cheap bolt. I think it's fine though, but this was one of them, and see, I have these spacers on there. I really should replace this with a genuine Volkswagen one. And this one is for the ground strap, but I had the ground strap on the starter bolt, which is stupid. I should have just put it on here, because this is actually made for, you know, putting a nut on the other end. And this one is, of course, also a genuine bolt, and that's a nice one there. It's a keeper for sure. What brand is it? Or why should I say brand? Let's see. It is a B 8.8. I forgot what hardware maker that is. But anyway, all that aside, I was wondering why it wouldn't come off, and that was the reason with that bracket. So after a bit of fiddling around with this transmission jack, which by the way didn't come with the bracketry that the other ones do, but really it's only useful if you're doing a rear-wheel drive oil pan where you have, rear-wheel drive transmission where you have the oil pan and it has these little, you know, L-shaped 90-degree parts that go against each corner of the oil pan. This isn't that, obviously. So I've taken this old ratchet strap and thrown it around. Ooh, it's a little loose for my liking. There we go. So got that on there. So it's a big transmission. See that extension shaft I was mentioning goes all the way back there. So look at that chunk. Isn't that terrible? So I'm just in the process now of separating it from the engine. What I'm worried about is the weight is either going to make this guy topple that way because the final drive is so heavy, it's going to topple sideways, or it's gonna, you know, something bad's gonna happen. So I'm being very careful here. I might even throw a jack under the final drive just to be careful. So I'm gonna continue prying. Well, this just murdered me. This took hours of me figuring out how to get this thing out. Between the ratchet strap getting caught on a tab on the back of the block, to this hitting stuff, this should have come off, by the way. I actually took the speed sensor out because I was gonna take this off, and I just couldn't get pried off in there, but this should have been off. I was trying to, you know, do 2 for 1, but Volkswagen doesn't want to do 2 for 1, so the point is that this should be as small as possible when fitting and taking it out and stuff, and I had to put this ratchet strap through there. Oh my god, this was hellish getting out. So, yeah, that's that. It's out, and there's a big void where it was. There's my VR6 clutch, and time to call it a night. It's very late. So I just brought it over to the workbench so I can start disassembling it. I already got a couple of those through bolts out that are on this side, because eventually I'm going to have this side facing down. This is going to be flipped, 90 degrees. So this is facing up so I can pull this whole casing off. But right now I'm going to go ahead and drain this fluid into there, and yeah, I'll try to zip these bolts out and hopefully split the case open and see what sort of damage is in there. Looking in there, sorry, I can see maybe one of the shift forks, but as I explained before, this is just kind of tabbed out, and it's I think second gear, it goes that way to select it. Obviously it goes that way and it's not letting it do that. So yeah, we'll see what kind of carnage we find in here, and I'd like to see if I can get this repaired as well, because that's, sort of structural. It looks cool too, but it's mostly structural, and that's why I want to get it fixed. Man, I'm so tired. I actually only replaced this stuff a few months ago, so I'm surprised it's as oxidized as it is, but yeah, it doesn't look too bad. There's the old diff. I love how it bounces around like that, but I'm gonna just keep a light on this and see if I can spot any fun particles. This is a maintenance-free drain here, so yeah, we'll see what happens. So I am now loosening these bolts holding the cases together that are inside the bell housing, and then when these are all out, I'm going to flip this over. And these nuts here are holding the output gear set, I think it's called. I don't know, but these all around here have to come out. You see I already got 2 out there, so that's that. Everything else is looking okay in here. Can't wait to smear a little bit of grease on there on reassembly, because the clutch always goes against there, so I never greased it initially when I put it together, so it's gonna be a nice little thing I get to do. I'm gonna reuse all this fluid that I just drained out. Yeah, this thing's nasty, and I don't really plan on cleaning it up because it's just gonna get dirty again because the turbo leaks so much oil. So yeah, here we go. Alright, fast forward a little bit. All the fluid's pretty much out, and I have it here on this really shitty lifetime table, but I have this clamp on it so it doesn't flip, and then I have a battery on the other side, so the whole table doesn't go like that in the middle of the night and then I lose the transmission. But yeah, everything's apart, and I just took the fifth gear cover off, and you can see some nice detail in here. This is a 0.72 fifth gear set, and I just ordered an 0.658 fifth gear set, which is going to give me a lot lower revs. This originally, the EWB transmission has a 0.70 fifth gear set, but I actually stripped and destroyed it, so this is what I put in just because I wanted to get the revs higher, because I was very paranoid back then. There's a hole drilled there for oiling, for additional oil flow, because this was a problem on these transmissions, because I guess the only oil came in through there, and then there's this little buffer there, and I don't know. So it's something about it, you have to drill through. Oh, there's another drill hole there. So the guy that rebuilt this a few years ago did all that stuff. But yeah, I have that cover off to zip. Yeah, these two off, take the shift fork out, take the gear set off. Then I have to take this, I believe this is a support bushing of some sort for the shifter shaft. I love how it has that little VW logo cast in there, it's cute. These are supports, bearing supports for the selector forks in there for 1, 2, 3, 4 in reverse. Same dealio on the other side, and then there's the selector shaft. And once those are out, and I zip the rest of these bolts around the final drive off, that too, I have to figure out how to get that out, but you know, shouldn't be too bad. But if I get that out too, then this whole thing, hit it with a hammer a couple times, should pop right off, and then get to see what happened over there. The big mystery. So I zipped these big Torx bolts off, and I pulled this apart a little bit. Oh, I'm just realizing now it's kind of gross looking. This is the first time I've got light on it. I wonder what that is. Moisture in there or something? Or just crappy fluid? I don't know. But yeah, you can see these gears are in great shape. They've, you know, dealt with my abuse pretty well, and honestly, I haven't really abused them that much at all. But that's that. Got all the little bits and pieces there, the fork and everything. It's all self-explanatory coming out. By the way, if anyone's wondering, those big Torx bits are, it's a, ouch, T60. It's a T60. So, and then that's a hex, and then these are triple square BS. So I have my puller already modified to take these out. As you can see, a few years ago I had some fun there. So I'll yank these guys out of the way, and the one thing I'm worried about, I'm not worried about any of this stuff, the one thing I'm worried about is getting this off. So I realized I did actually have a manual that covers this transmission, and they say you should line bolts up with the drain hole like this, sort of like how I have it, and just thread the bolts in to there, which I was doing. I want to see if the other side bolts have, or all thread, all the way up, because it says to just thread them in, and there's a, you know, a little circlip in there, and it goes boom. And I'm assuming I'm gonna just hammer that back in when I'm done, but yeah, I'm supposed to thread bolts in there, and it's supposed to lift this out. And it says align it with this because there are reinforcements, but I don't see any reinforcements. I'm not sure what they're referring to, but yeah, I tried it. That thing's in there tight. Additionally, I have to clean that off. It's not looking very good for this output thing either. So the damage is, you know, so far stuff I've had to purchase is the new washers for the inner CV, the torque, I think they're called torque distributing washers, where it has the two holes, and there's 3 of them. Those, the bolts I'm having to replace. This I'm having to do. I'm gonna have to reseal this, and if I have to buy a new one of these, this is, you know, becoming a pretty expensive repair, just because I didn't tighten those bolts all the way. So bear with me. So finally got some real movement here on this drive flange. None of the axle bolts or other bolts I had would work, so I found this cheap hardware one in my hardware box, and then this one, which was holding on the timing belt cover for a while for some weird reason. It's like a American size, I think, because it barely fits in the 16. 15 doesn't work. And then this is 15, this is like 15 and a half. So this is definitely, it's a metric threads, but not metric head, so I don't know, it's stupid. But it's working. As you can see, this thing has come up quite a bit, so as long as that much more thread there will pull it out the rest of the way. And if I get it out enough, I can get 2 pry bars under here and probably get it out the rest of the way. It just needs to clear that, little circlip at the end of the splines. So we'll see how this goes. So of course, that one bolt bottomed out right at the perfect spot. So 2 pry bars, boom, came right out the rest of the way. Easy peasy. So down there you can see the splines and the diff and all that fun stuff. And it's my first time feeling the seal. It's fine. It's basically new. I'm not replacing it. So this side's free. All that's left to do now, and hopefully finish this all tonight. Boom. I don't know what that is, but I'm gonna take it out, obviously, because, you know, I should. This lot of gnarly painted sealant. God, I hate spray painting stuff like this. I would never re-spray paint this. You know, selector shaft and those other supports on the other side. There's no through thing, so maybe I'm gonna leave that. I don't know. No, I'm gonna take it out. All right. Oh, and here we go. This is the flange. It's not really, I'm gonna clean it up more, but it's not in great shape. There's a little boo-boo there, so if I can't run a tap through these and make it really smooth, then, but you know, I think this is a discontinued part, so I don't know. I think it's all NOS. It's crazy to think that this car is, you know, it doesn't seem that old, but it is. It's an old car, and a lot of the stuff is not being made anymore, sadly. Support is gone for these old things, so you get to take the rest of this apart. It's up to people like us to keep these things going. Forgive the hoarseness of my voice. I'm quite dehydrated. I've just been working on this for the past few hours. I have all these fork supports out. I have the shift tower support, shift tower out. All this other fun stuff, which I think was all out already, but the last video I took. But I just split the case, and you know, you can go around and hit this with a hammer all day, and it's stupid because all you have to do is take a pry bar and go like that against there and pop this, which I did already. See, it's loose, so I'm just gonna lift this off now. Hopefully I don't run into any issues there. We'll be okay. So here we go. All right, all refreshed 2 days later. Now I had to take a break day because it was too cold, and you know, I did run into some issues. So first of all, I incorrectly referred to these as, you know, fork support pins, but they're actually called pivot pins, so sorry about that. But yeah, you saw all this stuff. And I thought last time, I said, ooh, maybe I'll have a problem with that. No, I'll be fine. And you realize that looks a little different. That's because I stuck a screwdriver in there. Because this is getting stuck or hung up on that tab there from the hole. So this hole is becoming a lot, you know, worse than I thought it would be. Uh-oh, there's a piece of aluminum in here from the hole. Yeah, I just got it out. Oh god. So I tried prying and it didn't work, so I know it's stuck on one of the forks, I think. So I've got these extensions in here, and I'm trying to, sorry about that light, I'm sorry. But I'm trying to hold the stuff out of the way so I can lift it up. I also noticed this. So that seems like that would not be acceptable. So I'm gonna check and see if it is acceptable. I'll post this video somewhere, or take another video and post it, because this one has no play at all. So yeah, that must be unacceptable. And that would actually explain some clunking I have, which I thought was differential play, but I guess it's that. So yeah, I'll check out the bearing when this is all apart, and hey, if I need to throw some new bearings in here, it's already here on the table, so no biggie. So let's see if I can't get this case off. All right, so I'm pretty stupid because it turns out I missed a bolt. It's down in there, and I think it supports the reverse idler setup. So we're gonna see if we can. Haha, little T45 down there, and look, all the fluid drained down and through that hole. Ah, look at all. No, there actually aren't really many shavings down there from our, you know, years ago 5th gear failure, but yeah. So you're gonna see live right now if this case comes apart. Should I wipe my finger off? You can go on the 190E. All right. Apologies for my, you know, ugly appearance. Ow! Oh. Okay. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. Okay, there's dripping a lot of fluid, so get these rags under here. Good. 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 We did good. And, oh. Oh. Okay. The camera cut out, but, yeah. Looks like we have a piece of aluminum there, and that other little piece here, and it's definitely, sorry, I'm not looking where I'm filming. Definitely aluminum, so that's good. And then we have our little pickup magnet there, and we have some nice slush on there, or what's it called, the swarf. We have all of our gears. Now, something I really want to take a look at is the idler, the reverse idler gear, because that thing usually gets beat up a lot. Now, I don't really beat up on it, but a few times it's, you know, the gear train is still spinning after you push the clutch in and you go to reverse too fast, and it goes, but it looks brand new. It looks fine. This is satisfying, satisfactory. Even these bearings are fine. See, this transmission was rebuilt like 60,000 miles ago, so there shouldn't be issues with it. This I was worried about, but we're going to take a look in here more. And what I want to look at right now, actually live here with you guys, is oh no. So that's not something I would have wanted to just fill in with Permatex. I'm glad I did this. I'm glad I took this apart, because that's a serious hole. Otherwise, what do we have? There's a bearing. So what is that? Is that chewed up? Mm-hmm. Okay. That needs to be renewed. Yes, that's bad. Okay, looks like I'm gonna be ordering some bearings. So I have this bearing ordered. You actually have to order, I didn't know this, but I guess it's common knowledge, is you have to order the tapered roller bearing and its race, and they come in the same package. So I should have known that, but I didn't. But I found a listing on eBay. I read off the race here. There's some laser engravings in there of the part number and everything and the dimensions, and I popped it into eBay, and in Poland there was an SKF brand one, which I trust SKF, and I ordered it, and it was maybe about $50 with expedited shipping, but that seemed to be comparable to a lot of the other ones. So that's coming in a few days from Poland, and all the seals and everything seem nice and supple and new, because they should have all been replaced like 3 or 4 years ago. So that's that. And then moving over here, my incandescent work light, because LEDs are terrible. I have this input shaft out, so what I had to do is I had to take off the reverse selector fork and the reverse shaft, and I don't know if I'm using proper terminology, but this is what I'm calling them. So you can see all those needle bearings and roller bearings down there. So that's that, and then once you get that out, you can kind of wiggle this out, and this will kind of catch you. But yeah, you pull that out, you can see where the seal rides there, the input shaft seal, in the bell housing. So I'm wondering here, because this washer does not come off of here, and I need to replace this bearing. So I don't know how to get in there. I'm gonna have to watch some YouTube videos, because I know this is the same setup as, I think it's called the O2J, the sedan transmission. So yeah, the sedan family of transmissions. So I'm gonna have to look that up. But what I want to do now is I want to sandblast that and sandblast this other piece there, because I'm going to be welding both of these up. So I want to make sure there are no fractures here or here, and because this is all painted, I think I voiced my opinion earlier, but I don't like this, you know, rattle can paint on aluminum. You know, if it's gonna corrode, it's gonna corrode. Just let it do its thing. Oh, does that mean 1998? That's fun. I'm sorry, when I said sandblast, I should have said soda blast, because we're going to be using the soda blaster today. Now, I haven't used this. The dust on here is indicative of how long it's been since I've last used this, but I'm going with this because I don't want to, number one, I don't want to risk getting sand in here, because this baking soda should dissolve in the oil, so it's a lot less harmful to stuff in there. And yeah, I just have it sitting around. I have a bunch of baking soda, a whole big bag of it, so why not use it? So I'm going to start with that there, and I'll do this here, and I'll see how much we can strip. I've got my 60-gallon compressor going, so this should, you know, be able to run at 100% duty cycle, and I shouldn't have any issues. So here we are, after doing some blasting in the general area. I see no fractures of any kind or lines starting, so, oh my god, focus, there you go. So that looks very weldable. I made a big mess of all this stuff in here, because of course I didn't clean all the oil out, so yeah, there's soda everywhere. So luckily I can use water or I don't know, whatever, to flush this out, because it will all dissolve, and that's why I use soda. You can see here, I did this whole area, you can see my work. I don't know why it's black, I guess it's just the oxidized layer. I'm guessing this transmission was very oily before it was rebuilt and spray painted, so that's that. I did this here, this whole general area. No cracks either. Nothing structural, so that's fine. And then here, I did this whole tab here, the support. And everything's looking good here too, so I only have a DC welder, and never TIG welded before, but I'll do a little practice run on some aluminum stock I have, and then guess I'll get this hot enough for it to clean. I guess that's the proper term, clean, and then I'll put in some filler here, and same thing over here. Maybe I think I have a piece of stock I can use here to fill this in and grind it down. And here I'll fill this in too. And this is just for cosmetics. I don't think this is a big structural issue, but you know, I'm a perfectionist here, so yeah, we'll do that, and hopefully this week I can get that finished. Alright. Little side project going on here. This is actually the axle that caused all of the damage, and what I did was I pulled the snap ring off, I pulled the joint out, and you can actually use the outer race as sort of a slide hammer. As long as you keep it, you know, absolutely straight and perpendicular, you can bang it out and use it as a slide hammer to get it off the spline. So that's what I did, and this, I had a whole set here, so that's actually a pretty good quality joint that I replaced thinking it was bad, but it actually wasn't. So I replaced that. I had an old one laying around, but what was messed up was I've since thrown it away. No, I'm sorry. It's in the indoor scrap metal pile. This place is a mess right now. This got destroyed. Right there, you can see that got destroyed. So that little cup, can rather. So I took the other can that was in here and just popped it on there, easy enough, and then pop this back on. I'm gonna also repack this. I have some leftover grease. I think that's GKN, so it's good shit. So I'm gonna pop that in there, work it all in, and then this project is done. Over here on the transmission, I don't know if I showed, but I pulled this out, and I asked some people online, and basically this is part of the shaft. This is fourth gear, according to the manual, and then it's fourth gear, and then the tapered roller bearing, and then that washer, and then that's the race for him right there. That's the race for him. And then that's the 5th gear spline. So what I'm gonna have to do is put this, my bearing splitter, right here on the press and press 1, 2, 3, 4 items out. And I think there's actually a race in there. So this is 5 things coming off of, 5 items coming off of this shaft. And then once that's off, I can go ahead and replace this and then press everything back. I don't know what kind of setting up I'm gonna have to do. I don't know if it just, I think it might just stop. I think I see a race in there. So I think it might just stop when I'm done pressing. It'll just stop. I hope I don't have to set anything with, you know, feeler gauges, because I really don't want to get into that. I just want to do an R&R of that, and then this race here, and then that's my repair. Besides, of course, the welding, which is not done yet, but I have to clean this up, and then I do actually have to get 100% argon, because I can't use the CO2 mix that I have for MIGGing. So that's that. And then the last part, which is I'm kind of worried about, I want to figure it out today though, is if I'm going to be able to salvage this guy, which is the drive flange. This I think is discontinued because all I could find were new old stock pieces online, and you know, everything's coming from like Poland or Russia or Lithuania for this stuff, which is kind of frustrating. It makes you kind of want an American car. But these threads are messed up in a few places. That's messed up. You know, this is just like, this all happened at idle too, which is, you know, amazing that it did all this damage at idle. TDI sure has a lot of torque, so yeah, I'm gonna clean this up with some brake parts cleaner and inspect everything, and then I'll try to run this tap through a few of them, and if I can get the bolts to thread on smoothly, then I think I'll be in good shape. That's it for now. Thank goodness I just ran the tap through all of these very, very carefully, and while some of them are not looking too good, I just threaded this bolt through every single one, and it's tight in every single one and goes in finger tight, or with finger force rather, even before it would barely even go in. And see, these threads are great on this bolt, so yeah, it just goes, uh-oh, now it's not doing it for me. Yeah, see, right, and just like that. Good as new? Absolutely not, but we're going to be putting liberal amounts of blue Loctite on all of these threads, so yeah, I mean, I have no choice here. This was going to have to be a repair, because this is like $300 on eBay for a new old stock one. What am I going to do? Get another used one that could have messed up threads too? No, this is the best I've got. So yeah, here I am, and all my threads are fine. Quick update here. After a few days, bought myself a spool gun and kind of taught myself how to do spool gunning with aluminum, and here are the results. There's that. Yeah, I know it's not pretty, but it's just a piece I had laying around and I welded in there. Yeah, it's not welded on the other side, I don't care. This I had a lot of trouble with. It kept cracking when I would weld it, and then I tried doing it on the other side, and then that cracked, and basically I've gotten it to a point where it doesn't leak and it's smooth and it's a little thin, but it is what it is. So that's that. All these seals, and this is intact too, so everything should be okay. I cleaned it up a little bit. This is where the mess occurred. What else is going on? Here's the bearing. There's the part number and everything for you. It's an SKF, it's made in Brazil. Here's the new bearing. It's like $50 on eBay from Poland. Not bad. So that's that. Everything in here is looking okay, so nothing else that's, you know, glaring. I keep thinking these splines are worn out, but that's just what they look like. I can't remember what those splines are called. But anyway, brings us to this, which is, yeah, those splines look really weird. But they're fine, they're fine. I already looked at them, they're fine. So I just was pressing on this and I was afraid I was doing something wrong, but then I was like, hey, it's a Volkswagen, it can't be too difficult. And I, you know, reached the peak here and again, and it started coming down. So now, as you can see, put my foot here so it doesn't fall. she's moving, so I'm gonna keep pressing this out and we'll get this slipped on, and then once that's done we can start putting everything together over there. God, this place is a mess, right? Look at all those screens. And we got all this mess back in the box, and pop him on, and we'll be done with this amazing project that I never thought I would have to do. Alright, everything came off easy enough. So we have fourth gear here. There's this after cleaning it up. The splines are looking like, you know, maybe B minus. But everything else is okay. Everything else here looks fine. The fourth gear splines are great. This bearing has, sorry. The needles look okay. But then you go look at this one, and yeah, there's some more lines on it. So I don't know, maybe this is fine, maybe it was just the race that was bad, but here's our new race. Or no, here's the race, here's the bearing. Got him, shot. There's that washer, and I think it might be yellow zinc plated. And there's the race for that needle roller bearing. So I'm gonna press this stuff together. The race just released, so for your viewing pleasure, see this thing goes. Oh, okay, wow, that was big. Is it gonna be going out in steps like that? Maybe. We're just gonna hear a nice coin drop in a second. Nope, there we go. Okay. Old and new side by side, and there's a shim here, so getting complicated. I have no precision measuring equipment for, you know, bearing load or anything. I'm not getting into that, so, you know, probably gonna regret that, but I'm just gonna go right back on there. But before then, I'm gonna make this slightly easier to install by putting it in there. Don't judge me. Input shafts are vegan. Just took some measurements here, and this is 3.49. This lip here is 3.49 millimeters. This is 3.46, so it's 0.03 millimeters off. And I don't know how much this is. Maybe like a millimeter, right? So I'm gonna put it on there. I think 0.03 millimeters is negligible. Probably not in transmissions, but, and I hate to say this isn't how I usually operate, but I don't care, because I don't have any of the other parts here to change it. I don't have any way to measure anything, as I mentioned before, so it is what it is. Just got the new race in. It's kind of interesting setting it up on the press. You have to watch out for these two guys here, that and that. The pins, the swivel pins or whatever the hell you call them for the fifth gear linkage, or the fork, the selector. What I had to do is each of them went over here, and then I had the differential housing out towards me, and I used a combination of things to get it in there. Now the good part is you use something about this size. That means nothing. But if you use something that's, you know, as big as this outer ring here, this actually sits slightly proud. At least with the shim I have in there, this sits slightly proud, so you'll be fine. You don't have to get something that's the exact size of there. You can go as big as you want if you don't hit that or the stuff up there. So that's sitting in there nice and well. And this thing is, I'll do some final cleaning in here and detailing, but God, that's so ugly, but I don't care. I'll do some final detailing in here, and then it'll be ready to reassemble. Yeah, definitely to do some final cleaning. Here it is. Everything's pressed on now. I used the race there to press the rest on. Probably wasn't the best idea, but it was too late for me to turn back. This is a 30mm socket, and yeah, I'm gonna pull this out. Fast forward a little bit. We have the shift forks on, we have this reverse support plate on, the top support is in there, the forks, all this stuff, and I just test fitted this, and this is nice and tight, nowhere near the clunk 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 that I was getting before, so good investment replacing that thing. So I'm gonna look at the sealant that I have. I have some Permatex Ultra Gray I'm gonna use, and I'm just gonna, you know, look around here and see how I'm gonna lay it down and just do one and done. So yeah. Flash forward, and it's almost all the way together, save for 5th gear set. I did an okay job with the RTV. It wasn't perfect, but while I was waiting, I got the pivot pins in, and this, and the bottom bearing support, shift tower support, and everything. All went in fairly easily. I put some RTV around there too. I hope not too much. I think a lot of it squeezed out of here. There's not a lot. There's not a lot of excess inside, so I think I'm okay. It was making a bit of a mess, so I put that in. I guess there was a lot still in the clutch housing, so that was that. It was kind of a rush taking the clamp off and you know, flipping it to get those other ones inside on and torquing them all. It's all 18 foot-pounds. This only goes to 20, so I did a little hair less on the thing, and hopefully it's somewhat accurate. So yeah, that's that. And yeah, pivot pins are all in. My back is just shot because, as you can see, this is as high as this thing is, and I have to hunch over to be in here. So that's that. Still getting 5th gear back together, but that's it. That's all I have to do. But pop that in, torque those up, and I have to torque these down a little bit when the RTV gets vulcanized enough, and then I can put it back on the jack and hopefully throw it in there tomorrow or this evening. I don't know. I'm excited. I don't want to fill it with fluid for like another 24 hours. So, because I'm worried about the RTV. But yeah, that's that. My back is shot. Here we are with 5th gear. There's a new updated washer for this smaller gear because the .72 gear set has a slightly larger cog there, so they gave me a smaller washer. So these are going to get blue Loctite. I think this is some, yeah, it says thread locker blue. I thought it was that gel stuff, but it's not. It's just the normal blue thread lock. So yeah, we'll put that on there. And then these get 59 foot-pounds. So I have my big torque wrench there, and we'll pop these on. This is T60, right? Yes, T60. So I'll pop these on with some thread locker, and I don't know how I'm gonna go about locking this. I was thinking about threading a bolt in through there just to lock everything up, or I could put a screwdriver between the gears. I don't know. It's 59 foot-pounds is pretty considerable, so I don't know. We'll see. But I'm gonna put some thread locker in these boys and get this all together. Get the pivot pins in. Yeah, pivot pins in, and then I should be able to seal this all up, and it's ready to go in. Call me a cheapo here, but I just changed the fluid like a year ago, and I really didn't want to throw away that nice fluid, so I taped one of my neodymium magnets to the bottom there. I've been like swashing around every couple days, so the fluid that I did recover from this is going right back in because I don't care. The plate, that's not the plate. The once I got everything torqued up here, all the plate disappeared in there, so those bearings are really doing their job now. So maybe that gets rid of a little bit of a clunk I had letting on and off in like 1st through 3rd gear when it's like really, you know, high ratio. So let's do this. Finally have this thing on the transmission jack, and everything's torqued up to spec and everything. 5th gear is on, all gears are working properly. I spun the input shaft and made sure everything was engaging as it should be, obviously, because I haven't really changed anything here. So while I just clean up the area, I've been messing with this. So originally there was this really short 6mm bolt in there. Well, actually it's a 8mm bolt with a 6mm hex head, but there we go. It's a little short, so I was like, I know I have something in my hardware that must fit this. I had one of those zinc washers on it, so I found another identical zinc washer in my stuff, and then these 2 Volkswagen bolts from some car, and they fit perfectly in there, and they just almost stick out. And this was being held on by one loose one, because the other one just wobbled out because I did not torque it enough. So we're going to have these threads really nice and dry, and we're going to torque them up really tight into the block, and then these holes, they're not oblong, but they're a lot bigger than the actual shank of the bolt. So I'll tighten these last once everything's in there. We'll make them nice and tight, not enough to strip the aluminum. Maybe we'll put some Loctite on there. And this is going to be really solid in here. Yeah, I'm going to continue cleaning up my area, and then I'll try to raise this thing in there after I fix the destroyed exciter wires, because I got really excited, so I destroyed the exciter wires. Whoops. Some new insight a couple days later. So I have this stuff all together, and that's greased, and there's a little dab of grease in there for the sleeve cylinder. I tried to wrestle this thing in yesterday for a couple hours, and I couldn't do it, so I pulled the bearing housing or extension shaft or trumpet or whatever you want to call it, that's off. And what I did was I just hit right there with, where is it? With that dead blow hammer. Boom, boom, boom. And there's a retaining clip right there that holds it on, and then a sealing O-ring there to seal the transmission fluid out. So hopefully now this won't be contacting the oil pan. Uh-oh, what's this? I don't know, whatever. This won't be contacting the oil pan anymore and giving me issues, so I'll be able to rotate this with a lot more degree. I think I have to rotate the differential down, then get the clutch and everything in here, and then rotate this back up, because these aren't clearing the subframe. Alright, let's see if we can do it. A few hours later and she's in. It helped, oh my god, it's not focused. It helped immensely getting that extension shaft off. So yeah, I brought the trans jack in here. I kind of tilted it a little more this way, like that, because I now have that extra working room. With the extension off, what have I done so far? I put that bottom plate on, 2 13mm there. I only have 4 bell housing bolts that would fit, because I still need one to go through here, so I'll buy that soon. But yeah, 1 there, and then the 2 on top, and then the 1 in the back, which was missing before. I only had 3 before. So yeah, this is all together. And the big pain here was getting this back in. So to do that, I also had to take the shock out of this side, so I could swing this axle out of the way, down here a little bit, and then slide this guy in here. And then that clip is annoying because this actual shaft is floating in here. So, and there's some needle bearings at the end there. So what I had to do is take this, oh, now I'm on the ground, take this 1980 BMW 325iX front drive shaft that was sitting in my backyard, and put some rags on the other end, which is splined to go into the transfer case, and then hit it from out here with this dead blow hammer. And that was the only way. I tried wood, I tried doing it from in here just with the hammer itself, couldn't get it in. So that's in right now. I just installed the pendulum mount. This I didn't get the torque spec. It's tight enough. This one I definitely had not been tightening enough. This one is spec'd at 148 foot-pounds. So that's one of the tightest bolts I've ever properly torqued on a car. So 148 because it has to squeeze that bushing. So yeah, that was the last thing I just did right now. So all that's in, and then of course my extension bracket is on. I'm sorry, I should have turned the light on before, but yeah, all that's bolted up and torqued and everything. So next, I think I'm gonna do the drive shafts and starter and yeah, shift linkage and all that other fun stuff, and then we'll be done. I have to clean all those axle bolts off so I can get the Loctite in there nice and good, because we don't want another failure of similar nature. So you'll get to that right now. My axle bolts are now standing by to be installed. I've thoroughly cleaned the threads. These were covered in CV joint grease. Everything was, not just the threads. They were all covered in it. These were covered in it. That's the original one that survived off of the axle. Don't think it's bent. Looks straight to me. The other one's bent. Then these are two new ones I picked up at the Stowe. And then these are original from the other side, of course, because there's no failure on the other side. So I have this stuff. I had the other Loctite that I used on 5th gear, but that one was weird. So this is the gel, and I know there's certain, parts in here, ingredients. They're different compounds they use in here. That's the word I'm looking for. And they'll separate, and one of them will sink down to the bottom because one of them is denser than the other, and you have to kind of shake it up. And I don't think that happens with the gel. So, and there seems to be enough in here to do, hopefully, all of these. I'm gonna glob it on these, just so we don't have any issues. Passenger side axles, and that's not torqued yet, but those are all torqued, and I put them to 60 foot-pounds. I found that somewhere online. Or maybe it was, I think 80 Newton meters was 60 foot-pounds. And there's, thread locker on there. I kind of set up a little station where I was thread locking them and then putting them in there. So that's in, and there's no issues. It's spinning freely. The other side is a little different. So first of all, the first one I tried, it was cross-threading. So I was like, oh, shit, and I took it out, and then I rotated it like 180, and I did the other one, and it went in. And once it was flush, I didn't have any other issues with the cross-threading. It's just the countersinking on those holes is a little messed up now. So all of them went in, and then as I was turning it, it was kind of going kung, I was locking up, and I was like, God, please don't let that be in the transmission. But luckily, this spins freely. The diff spins freely. I'm gonna have to spin the brake rotor on their side with all the rust on it, so I can't spin it, but that spins freely, like I confirmed before I put it in the car. So, which brings me to over here, and basically, when I took it off, this came out, and then the outer race just stayed on the output shaft, or the drive flange, so yeah, luckily I have another, I think, quality one that I replaced by accident. So I'm gonna pop that on here, pack some new grease in it, and hopefully we'll be on our way. I probably should have just done that originally. Look at this thing, it's disgusting. So, I mean, the metal's disgusting. It became a weapon of mass destruction for a brief moment. There is no gasket. Where's the gasket? I'll have to find that. But for the time being, yeah, the bolts are just, they have Loctite on them. They all took the 60 foot-pounds of torque. Just, oh God, what a mess. But luckily, everything else is good. I put the shifter linkage all back in, plugged the vehicle speed sensor, the reverse light, I did the starter and all that wiring stuff, and everything's plugged in. everything's tightened down, torqued to spec, everything, the transmission goes into all the gears beautifully, so no issue there. Just kind of disappointing that this is the last thing I have to do, and then of course I have to fiddle with this and get the shock mount back in there and everything, but that's okay. Once that's done, then I'll let the Loctite set for overnight, and then tomorrow I'll come out here, hopefully, and crank it up and put it on the ground and drive it around, and hopefully no catastrophe ensues, and if it does, then it is what it is. Imagine this, but 10 times more caked up and gross and dried out. That's what this looked like about 10-15 minutes ago, but I took it apart and cleaned it up really well, and it came out nice. It's actually I didn't realize this, but it's actually a Metelli, and this probably has about maybe 4,000 miles on it, and I changed like 3 of these trying to chase a problem, but this one's actually still super tight. It's just like broken in, so I'm going to pack this thing up and slide it on there and then get this all together, because it's getting very late and I want to have this Loctite sit overnight. I have something to admit. This one was doing the same thing. It was actually just because the shock was disconnected and the suspension was hanging a little too low, so it was a little notchy. I just was confused because the other side wasn't doing it. But yeah, I feel kind of stupid, but I think it's good that I have that nice, better quality one on there and not the one that failed, because I just feel better overall with that in there. And yeah, everything's torqued down to spec. I only did these to 150 foot-pounds. I don't know why, I just did that. Oh god, I just reminded myself I have to tighten those down there. Whoa, I completely forgot about these down here. Wow. Oh wow. Okay. Wow. Okay, I'll tighten those in a second. But right now I'm adding some transmission fluid, and then I'm going to dump some stuff from the old transmission fluid in there, and yeah, then we'll lower this thing down, put the wheels back on, lower it down, and that's it for tonight. Tomorrow morning will be initial startup and hopefully a test drive. Everything's dandy. Just topped off the transmission, put everything back together, torqued the wheels on, everything. So I'm gonna wait overnight for the Loctite to cure, or the thread locker to cure, and we'll get a little more trickle out of this guy, and hopefully test drive tomorrow. And I really need to replace my radiator. Came back this morning to a little tiny pinhole leak from those welds, but it was like maybe like 2 or 3 drops that come out overnight, so I just smeared some RTV on there, and fingers crossed it stays how it is. Yeah, I'm gonna try to give it its first start right now. Hopefully nothing bad happens. Alright. Fingers crossed. Goes into every gear. Confirmed. Alright. Ready? Okay, glow plugs are off, and transmission's spinning right now. So let the fluid mix in a little bit, you know. Final update here on the transmission service on the EuroVan. It's all done. I've been driving it for a couple days now. The only issue is there's still a little pinhole leak where I did the welding. that's leaking just a tiny bit, but I smeared some RTV on it, and it seems to have stopped. So, I mean, that's my only, you know, course of action at this point. I can't take it apart to fix that. So, RTV it is, and I think anyone else would say the same. But yeah, here I am. I'm in 4th gear, and I am at 40 miles per hour at 2,000 RPM in 4th. Wait, that didn't change. I don't know why I'm saying that. I'm on 5th gear. I wish I could show you 5th gear, but right now with the EWB ratio, here we go to 3rd. With the EWB ratio, I'm going to change lanes too. I am doing 80 miles an hour at about 3,000 RPM, which is, you know, insane. Also, my turn signal's a little quick. I have to fix the connections there. And also, as you can see, my alignment's messed up. But it's fine for now. I'm getting excellent fuel economy. And yeah, that concludes this video.